I needed and wanted to post about I can't stand when there's a changeover because I know there's someone manipulating my post when I video post anytime I use my it's almost like somebody has a way um like some kind of signal on their own it's more elaborate system like almost like there's an alert when my IP address or my camera starts up on my phone that there's an automatic alert to someone else's more elaborate system of equipment. And believe me, if I say it, I believe that it's a possibility in regard to uh, uh, digital technology. Um, I watched a documentary about this Epstein guy the other day, and the fact that I'm a single mother whose children were taken from her, and I've been connecting some really, really disgusting dots of the culture of the entertainment industry and the political arena, um, and how things eh, you get to a point in your research that you're like, what can you do to stop yourself from um from continuing to expose these people. I mean, to think that there's no um I can't think of the word, credence, no, to the story about this Epstein guy. And again, scapegoating is not my thing, okay? Because he's not the only person, and I'm not trying to take the heat off him specifically if the non-corrupt FBI is zeroing in on him and holding him accountable. Um, but it's like a higher level of Gene F. Henderson II's existence. And so when I'm pleading to different people in the government and wherever I am at any given point in time, and they're looking at me like I'm the idiot, um, it it's very upsetting, uh, and yet you have to maintain a level of because every day is like, really, did I just see what I just saw? And what is that? And since my children were taken from me, and things have just been um, getting worse and worse and worse every day, it seems like. And someone is switching off m- my every time if you're trying to record something and there's like a freeze frame, what's going on there I suspect, is that someone has a setup and is switching off back and forth within their own uh, system, computer system, digital technology, whatever. And they're doing it for many reasons. First of all, these men and women. And the thing is that when I posted, and I've talked about my Henderson family, and every time they seem to get close to me, um, I discover something else. Like, for instance, when I start to try to forgive them, um, it- just within my everyday existence, um, really they are unforgivable people because they have ill affected my life and my children's lives. And but to for myself to just to let go of the bitterness, that I can find some answer as to where my children are, and that I'm inquiring about my adult and minor age children. And then to come across this story about this Epstein guy and the dates of like years and everything, and then his wife, and to notice a strong resemblance of his wife to Charlotte Henderson's second cousin, Gay. And there's not a that's what her name was. And it's disgustingly ironic and close, to be 60 years old and and in this situation. First of all, the number of years that the evolution of my acceptance of what I've been through in regard to my children, um and then this world of disgustingness um is unfolding and revealing itself to me in like a every person that I have that I have a real-time contact with, it seems, has some kind of ignorance or participation. It's one or the other. It's ignorance or participation, or not being able to accept the audacities. I don't know. I don't understand logically or comprehensively why this man can't be stopped and others, when there are people such as myself who are reporting my own countenances of my own childhood and saying, look, this man is not a good person. Okay, I don't like him being around me. I know the extent to which he stalks me. Okay, and I know the kind of childhood I had with this person. Okay, and then here I am now 60 years old. They conspired and had my children taken from me. And then there's just more and more information that reveals itself through stories like this Epstein story, that what I have been expressing about my Henderson family may very well be true. Now, I myself can logically, although it's very difficult. It was initially very difficult to accept and believe that the people you grew up in the same house with for 20 however old I was when I first left the roof of Jean and Charlotte Henderson. Uh I was 23 or 24 years old. So for 23 and 24 years of my life, uh, and to at 60 years old, that their disgusting connections are revealing it. It's not mind-blowing at this point. It's that physical nauseating feeling that your children, my children, are being uh controlled by people like Epstein. Now, anybody who doesn't have a problem with children being anywhere near, and yet myself, the biological mother of my own biological children, adult and minor age, and my grandchildren as well, and the situation that I'm in, and the implications I have to carry of those disgusting people because they have my children, and to wonder why I'm not angry and to say, "Oh, Dawn, calm down. That's another episode." That's what my younger sister Leah used to say to me when I was in that era of my life when my family decided to make it, to create such a, an existence for myself where I became isolated, and then the different strategies that they used. Um, and this was right before their strategies whereby they became uh aggressive in regard to uh, 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 their practices and how they conducted themselves. Now I just heard a bump. So there's neurolinguistic anytime, excuse me, I'm searching for the right way to explain or put something. Anytime I hesitate in my words or in my recountance of something is an opportunity that I don't intentionally give. But again, I think that my computer is attached to someone else's that is part of the team of the disgusting, creepy people who took my children from me. And, it's also well advertised about how much power these people have had. It would be very easy to take these people down if you could find enough people to stand against them. Um, the fear factor thing goes so deeply into a child's psyche, and I can speak on that in regard to my own childhood and how Jean the second specifically used fear as a way to scare me out of my own psyche, and thereby uh, uh, that's a way of mind control. and then they use every little bit of premeditated um programming and catalytic phrases and trigger words that they've set up for so many years. You figure 1972 and it is now 2024, and Gene F. Henderson II has had hands on and never, absolutely ever took his freaking hand out of the hands on practice of information technology. Okay. So um, it is so disgusting that these men have gotten away with our children. I can't ever stop speaking on this. And there was one person who said, "Oh, why are you always talking about that, Dawn? It sounds like you're one of them." You know what? That person resembles someone. I have to ask the question as to what involvement. In other words, I'm so disgusted right now. I go from having a good morning and thinking, okay, well, maybe I'm going to get some real information about where my children are. If the real information that I'm getting about where my children are somewhere in Epstein's freaking disgusting slime ball, what else can you say about these people? And then to continually discover the connections of the people from my childhood. How do you escape it? How do you escape it and get your biological children back from these disgusting people? I never, ever, ever take a neutral side in regard to a story, particularly where children are involved. So I realized that when I pulled up some story, the headline on the video was "This child is evil" or something like that. And I recognized the guy from um, from the lineup of the lineage of Prince Andrew, who is involved in the Epstein stuff. So I click on it to see what it's all about because one, I recognize him as a lineage to what I just said, and two, because I just saw that documentary 2 days ago. Whenever I watch something on television, it's like or on whatever. uh, The But what's interesting about this incident is that I saw this person in real time before I came across, like, I think it was that evening or the next day that I got on my computer and that story about Epstein came up. This guy that I saw at the Starbucks in Boulder, South Boulder, just as you're leaving Boulder, this guy looked just like him. I I noticed him when I was at the Starbucks because it was like he was the center of the room, and I couldn't really figure out why it seemed like he was the center of attention, but like no one was really talking to him. And it was that evening or the next day that the story about Epstein came up on my computer. So, considering the fact that so many people have my computer within their ability to connect into, it might be that these people, because it is a cat and mouse game to these people, like it becomes fun for them to surround and just be like so in your face with their stuff. So it might be that they pre-programmed into my computer or simultaneously, hey, look, we got this story on here, and look, he's not really dead because there you just saw him at Boulder. Because according to, and as I posted on my Facebook page, he supposedly is dead. Now, he's not the first disgusting person that I've come across who supposedly is dead, and yet I'm constantly seeing people who just look just like him. However, there's a big on the down low cloning business that goes on in Colorado, and I first became aware of that when my second daughter was only an infant over in Inglewood, Colorado, in the business park over there. So these are things like stories or things that you see that you're like, you don't really want to deal with. It's kind of like my former sister-in-law Holly telling me and giving me information about her sister and her in-law. Her sister and her in-law brother-in-law and their son Eli. It's not something that my psyche could deal with. And they knew that because they knew the kind of person I was. Anytime the party started, I might stay for about an hour and then I'm like, see ya, because it's not my scene. So when you come across information, or like when I was walking around Inglewood Business Park in here in Colorado when my second daughter was only young, and there was a cloning business. Some people they just think I'm just totally overreacting, but this is an existence that is unacceptable for children, and why did you take my children? I'm continually angry and astounded. uh um so when I saw that cloning business over there in Inglewood Parkway Business Park all those years ago, I'm like, oh, that seems a little strange. And then I had a memory of the man who I roommated with from a like distant. It wasn't. There were three of us roommating, and in I forget because I am just I am astounded. Um, at the inability, or it's not really an inability because these men could be stopped very easily. Uh, DNA testing at birth, fingerprinting at birth, and fingerprinting then every other year in a database. That's one huge way that would stop these men and women who are cohorting with them, which I suspect my younger sister Leah to be a huge part of what I'm talking about. And she's one that's constantly that I'm trying constantly to I'm having to fight for my own identity and my character as how I live my character, not how these cloning people and these identity thieves and all of these Hollywood people and beyond that go around disguising themselves and creating disguises and using such as what I'm my video right now. I suspect that my physical look is being copied, and therefore I'm being implicated not only now by way of my identification documents and my name, but now I know, or I suspect strongly that my likeness, like I think they might have made a mask of me uh to go around, that they've gone around in similar ways, that it's endless. But DNA testing and fingerprinting at birth is one huge way uh, that would contribute to stopping these disgusting people who will not, who have, and they have had so much access, and it's constantly talked about of how on the videos, on the documentaries, of how much power they have, and I don't care how much power they think they have. Okay, all of their power has come by way of other people's children, and I'm never going to stop looking for my children out of the world of people such as Gene F. Henderson II and Epstein and others, and the politicians that I already suspected, that show up in these documentaries and associations, with and the controversies that have come up, like in the Clinton administration with the whole and it was all so downplayed at the time. And myself, I was like immediately, turned off by the Clintons as a couple, and any further consideration in my own intelligence of ever seeing Hillary Clinton in office. And the number of people who got behind her for what, who even knows? Because what, in my opinion, what a weak woman to stay with a man who all that controversy came out about, and to stick by him uh eh, simply for the power and the negative publicity. If she was trying to turn things around, there should have been at some point, sometime, uh, some kind of more constant publicity or publications, or statements from Hillary Clinton that had something to do with, her vehemently being against uh, uh, Bill Clinton's involvement. Um, and it just seems like the whole Monica Lewinsky thing was really like something minor in comparison to involvements that he had with this Epstein guy. I need to find more biological mothers who are outraged and are ready to continually go public about these findings on these men and women. The number of laissez-faire attitudes that I come across in regard to this topic. Oh, I just, oh. I stopped at a Harford County police officer like in like 2014 or 15. I was going into the Royal Farm store along, what road is that? Uh, the main road from that goes from Bel Air to what used to be called Campus Hills up by the community college, Harford Community College. Anyway, I had probably just the night before uh, seen an automobile pull around the corner in front of me, and it was nighttime. But there was light inside the car, and I could not figure out because the car just kind of zoomed by. But the person in the passenger seat, which was on my side of, like, I'm standing outside of the Royal Farms, getting ready to walk in, waiting for the light to change so that I could cross the road or whatever. I wasn't going into Royal Farms at that point. I must have had just come out of Royal Farms, and I was standing at the light waiting for the light to change to cross the road to wherever I was going. But I was homeless at the time. And the car that pulled in front of me on the passenger side, which was again the person who I could see better, and the person that was more, there seemed to be like a light. I don't know if they had the interior light of the car on, like it was one of those in your face kind of moves. But the female on the passenger side resembled, like, looked like could be my daughter. Uh, and at that time, she would have only been like 7 years old, 7 or 8 years old. So it was very disturbing sighting for me because the girl in the passenger seat who looked like could be my daughter Elsa and was approximately the same age was smoking methamphetamine, or was smoking a bowl as they came around the corner. And my judgment is not of my daughter Elsa, who was only 7 or 8 years old at the time, if it was her, or if it was the person in the passenger seat was young, and the person driving was of obvious different culture of a blonde hair, blue eyed girl. Now, again, I could go and reference back to my experiences, but I'm not going to. Um, so, like the next day after that disturbing sighting, because my daughter's only 7 or 8 years old, she shouldn't be in an automobile. She's supposed to be with her father in wherever he was living at the time. Um, so the next day after that, or 2 or 3 days, however, it was very recent following after that, um, I stopped a Harford County police officer who was going into Royal Farms, the same Royal Farms that I was standing at the night before or 2 nights before, and asked him, because I had already been culminating trying to find a plan of a solution that would stop people from trafficking children. And I had already been culminating this idea of DNA testing at birth and fingerprinting at birth, and then progressive fingerprinting until the child gets a certain age. And I asked and the other portion of that would be to install the ability, a software program in local, state, and national security automobiles, a software program that would allow the officer to run fingerprints on each and every traffic stop or whatever, to discover whether there's any kind of other warrants on the person driving a vehicle. And the reason for this is simply to in looking and finding a way to stop people from trafficking children. And his response to me was, well, then you'd have everybody crying Big Brother. I'm like, okay, well, here it is, how many years later? A decade later. And however, uh, they want to cry Big Brother on something like an officer having the ability to run fingerprints at the scene of the pullover. And yet these disgusting people who are trafficking children are sitting around having fun with everything I have to say. And every time I get on my computer, at what point do people start waking up and saying, you know what? There has to be a stop to those disgusting people. And I'm not talking about the children. And then as a mother searching for children and not knowing how, or not being empowered by my own government to be able to participate in stopping those people. And yet they're all around all the time with their in your face tactics and strategies, that they're so bold because they've gotten away with this stuff for so long. And sorry, but my suspicion is Jean F. Henderson II and Charlotte Henderson, the two people who I know what my childhood was. To wake up the youth, to wake up the youth who are um wake upable, and have the youth wake up. The race card and gangs are pawn groups. The race card is a pawn strategy. It's a political strategy to keep innocent people, not only of the race card, it is a distractionary political strategy. And gangs are paid to be, they think they're all tough and everything because of whatever plant they have within their own, but they're all pawns. They're pawns in a game that is about pitting people against each other. It's how I was raised. Jean and Charlotte, Jean II, and Charlotte Henderson were masters of pitting me and my siblings against each other. Now, I cannot speak for my other three siblings into how deeply they're involved in the disgusting mess of such people like Epstein. I know myself, I am not and have not any involvement other than being surrounded by these disgusting, creepy people who are constantly in my face with their need to pull me in, and I refuse. I don't know what more I can do other than continually speak against the things that I see, the things I suspect, the things that I hear, um, and call for other biological mothers specifically. Because to understand logically, not comprehensively, like I don't compassionately understand, oh gosh, Petrus or Michael or whoever else, but the two fathers of my biological children, if this is the way that they live their lives, and I suspect that it is. Oh, I understand that you just had a survival need to go out and sperm other eggs so that you can exist in a world and survive, and beat your chests and of how wonderful of a man you are. I logically understand the strategy, but I do not compassionately. I don't have any compassion for the biological fathers of my biological children at this point. I defended both of them in regard to what I saw in their characters when I was with them. 20 years apart. My children are 20 years apart. Two different fathers and 20 years apart. And to realize what an idiot I've been for defending them, because then the longer time passes and my younger sister Leah is supposedly had a relationship with and possibly even married my first daughter's father, but in my name. That's one of the rumors that I hear. And believe me, there is no way that that I discount that rumor. I can ask questions about it. In other words, in retrospect, I can see it's something easily that my younger sister Leah would do. And depending on how involved Michael was in different activities, it's still hard for me to say. It's still difficult for me to speak out against my biological children's biological fathers, even though he had such a similar character to Leah. And maybe he felt captured by me or my Lord and Savior Jesus, because he would make comments and like in support of my character at different times that we were together. But I just don't know anymore of how, I don't know how, uh, 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 where his level of guilt was, and now I'm smelling peanut butter. Um, but I think in retrospect that Leah and Michael had similar characters. Oh, it's disgusting for me to think for me to accept and believe what I said to my first daughter's biological father. Um, and the same thing of my second daughter's children's because I gave birth to two sets of twins, and I often, because of not having my sons in my life, because my sons were evidently offerings, not by my knowledge or permission, but again, in retrospect and seeing and putting together things, connecting dots, my sons were an offering to whatever and whoever they went to. And I suspect that my younger sister Leah and other members of my Henderson family were aware of what I wasn't privy to in regard to my own physical being and giving birth to twins and not just a daughter. So it's not that I forget them. It's just, when I'm recounting things, it's a condition of what I am able to accept even at this given point in time in regard to what I'm dealing with. And the fact that I have sons and daughters, my daughters I had spent really real time with. And obviously my first daughter, more years than my second daughter. But I don't need or want my sons to, at any point in time, I don't want their existence I don't want them to feel discounted as viable human beings and lovable human beings from a mother's standpoint. And as I'm saying that, I can see that Epstein face. It's almost, they are so opportunistic in regard to, because there's a whole lot of subliminal questioning that goes on, and they're opportunistic. It's like they know who you are as a biological mother and what so you become this source of innocence for them to use on a whole nother level. And it's irritating. It's irritating because I know I want nothing to do with, and all I want is for these men and disgusting women to be caught and stopped. I don't want to present myself as a source for them to be able to use as a cover for their existences.